Tojisha-Kenkyu. What is this movement and what we should learn from Japan? Today, guys, we are talking about Tojisha-Kenkyu, which is not very well known in the West. It's somewhat some sort of experiment, if we want to call it like that, that is happening in Japan, but that will have and can potentially have, if extended to other parts of the world, enormous potential and enormous consequences, positive consequences on the health, well-being, and integration of all individuals in society. Tojisha-Kenkyu. What is this? So it was born in Japan, precisely in the island of Hokkaido and precisely in the city of Urakawa. And in order to understand what this is about, we have to take a step back and understand who Tojisha are. Tojisha is a term that appeared first in law and politics in reference to litigation. But in the 70s, this term was used by people to self-identify themselves as people who are not fully are not integral part of society. And so Tojisha identifies themselves as such to express the idea that they were outsiders. It started in the 70s, but actually it started even earlier than that, thanks to another social movement, that of people suffering from cerebral palsy. And they were invisible. Now, their invisibility was pretty much visible. You could actually tell if you look at someone whether or not that person suffers from cerebral palsy. But they were completely invisible to society. Society was neglecting, dismissing, not taking them into account or into consideration. And later on, around the 70s, there's a first phase in which Tojisha becomes a name for those people who do not identify with traditional gender norms of male, female. So we're talking about mostly transgender and how they are invisible to society. But then again, in the 70s, there's another movement of Tojisha, another meaning that this term takes, and that meaning is in reference to people suffering from alcohol addiction or schizophrenia. And this is interesting because in alcoholism, you would have someone who wants to protect their anonymity, right? You have AA, where people do not disclose really, too much, where confidentiality is a big thing. Schizophrenia is also something completely invisible. So in the late 70s, in Urakawa, there's people suffering mostly from alcohol addiction and schizophrenia reunite in a sort of support group in a former church, and it was known as the Group of Bethel. And what they sort of decided or came about is this idea that they are invisible to society, but they're willing to unite and organize and fight for their future. Fight to be recognized, fight to have more rights, fight to understand better their disease. And so thanks to Toshiaki Kawamura and the anti-psychiatric movement, these people, especially those suffering from schizophrenia, started to study themselves, their own symptoms. They were the patient, but they were also the researcher of their own mental health issue. And it is exactly in those terms that nowadays Tojisha-Kenkyu is defined. Is this anti-psychiatric movement where people suffering from a mental disorder, mental health issue can organize themselves, study themselves, their own symptoms, understand how to treat better, whilst at the same time not only being recognized by society, but pushing society to acknowledge their problem. Every time we talk about mental health issues, right, there's always a component that is environmental. There is always a component that, we in the West think too much that that person is a problem. But actually, that person is most of the times only suffering from bad luck in having herself or himself that problem, in the sense that it is how society functions and how society is structured that we end up having kids with issues. For instance, the disorder of attention, right? How much that disorder does actually depend on crowded classrooms. How much that disorder does depend on the way of learning, which is ancient and antiquated and completely inadequate to what we know about learning. When we think about that, right, then we have to realize that it's a collective blame we should take in order to solve a problem, right? This is not the problem of a few individuals. It should be the problem of all society. And there should be a willingness for society to take care of those issues. And this is an idea that can be traced back to an Italian psychiatrist, Roberto Mezzina. And he says, self-discovery is a process of recovery. The idea is that these people can actually study themselves, their own symptoms, understand themselves, what would be the best solution for them, right? So rather than being a shameful secret, let the secret be out there and let the secret revolutionize the way we treat patients. Let the secret revolutionize formal, traditional, typical dominance that dominates the relationship between doctor, researcher, and the patient. And so a cafe was open first, then you had like public lectures and a lot of merchandise that the experiment of Tojisha-Kenkyu put out there. And then what actually happened is that there was a channel in Japan which broadcasted this program that was Hallucination and Delusion Grand Prix. And this is a TV show basically that aired on national TV and gained a lot of popularity, but also shed a light on mental health issues, how we should treat them better, what would be the best model for us to treat mental health issues, but also for the patient to actually be involved in a process of recovery and not just subjected to it, whilst being acknowledged, recognized by the entire society. So I think that's an excellent model. We should extend. Japanese always have great ideas, I must say. In general, like, Japanese know a lot about holistic ways of treating diseases or mental health issues. Anyway, I want to hear your thoughts. Do you agree with me that we should extend this model? Do you think it's feasible? Let's hear your thoughts. So you know what to do. Comment below, let us know your thoughts. And if you have enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel. And we'll talk soon in a new episode. Bye!